They would hunt until justice was served, and they would never, ever stop. Part 4. The Turning Tide. 5 years after the first attack, General Hyun stood on the surface of a conquered Krolith fortress world. Smoke rose from destroyed bunkers. Krolith soldiers lay down their weapons and walked toward prisoner transports. His troops secured the area. "Fortress Gamma 7 is ours, sir," his second-in-command reported. "Enemy casualties minimal. They surrendered once we deployed the biological agent. Our casualties, 12 wounded, none killed," Hyun nodded. This was the 89th Krolith installation humanity had taken. Not just destroyed from orbit, actually invaded, conquered, and held. That was new. That was the turning point. "Process the prisoners according to protocol," he said. "Medical treatment for wounded. Document everything for the war crimes trials." The Krolith prisoners looked confused. They had expected execution or torture. Instead, humans gave them food, water, and medical care. It was more mercy than the Krolith showed anyone. One prisoner, a young warrior, asked a human medic, "Why do you help us?" "We killed your people." The medic, a woman who had lost her parents on Horizon's Edge, looked at him. "Because we're not like you. We fight to bring justice, not to become monsters." In space above, pilot Sora flew her fighter back to the carrier. She had just completed her 47th confirmed kill. At 22 years old, she was humanity's top ace. Her tactics were studied in every military academy. Her name was known across both human and Krolith space. What nobody knew was that Sora was Captain Daewon's daughter, the man who died on the Morning Star. She had joined the fleet as soon as she turned 18, using her mother's family name so nobody would give her special treatment. She earned every promotion through skill and determination. "Lieutenant Sora, landing clearance granted," the carrier said. "Admiral Sung-ho wants to see you in his office." She landed smoothly and headed to the Admiral's office. Sung-ho greeted her with a tired smile. He looked older now. 5 years of war had aged everyone. "Congratulations on another successful mission," he said. "You're being promoted to captain." "Your own squadron?" "Thank you, sir. There's something else." He pulled up a file. "We've been tracking Krolith command structures. We found something interesting. Supreme Overlord Vecrath has a command center on their fortress world of Kroll Prime. When the time comes for the final assault, I want you to lead it." "Why me, sir?" Sung-ho looked at her carefully. "Because you're the best pilot we have. And because your father was Captain Daewon of the Morning Star. I served with him years ago. I recognized you the moment you enlisted. But I honored your wish to serve under your mother's name. Your father died sending a warning that saved millions of other lives. He deserves justice, and you deserve to be there when we get it." Sora's eyes stung with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "I'll be ready, sir." The war had changed dramatically. In 5 years, humanity had gone from barely surviving to actually winning. The Krolith Empire had lost 89 worlds, almost a third of their territory. How did this happen? Dr. Hana's biological weapon proved decisive. When human forces deployed it on Krolith military worlds, their warrior caste became too sick to fight. It didn't kill them, but it gave humanity time to land troops, secure objectives, and establish control. Engineer Minho's weapons projects bore fruit. The new Harbinger-class warships matched Krolith destroyers in firepower and exceeded them in speed. Human ships were no longer inferior. The alliance of the hunted grew. Dozens of species who had suffered under Krolith rule provided support. They shared intelligence, opened their space to human ships, and supplied resources. Some even started sending troops. Kaivara, the freed alien who first approached Ambassador Ji-wan, now commanded a multi-species battalion fighting alongside humans. She told her soldiers, "We fight not for revenge, but for a future where empires cannot murder with impunity." The Krolith Empire started to fracture. Some provinces, seeing the writing on the wall, tried to negotiate separate peace with humanity. They offered to surrender their territories in exchange for protection from Vecrath's wrath. President Min Seo refused them all. "We will not accept partial justice," she announced. Every world that participated in the attacks, every leader who gave orders, every commander who followed them, all will face justice. "We will not let some escape while others pay the price." It was a hard stance. Some in humanity argued it was too hard. Why not accept surrenders and end the war faster? But the families of the victims disagreed. At the memorial archives, where names were still being read after 5 years, people came to remember. They looked at the faces of the dead. The children. The elderly, the innocent. Would we dishonor their memory by accepting half measures? They asked. Would we say their deaths matter less than ending the war quickly? The answer was always no. Humanity would see this through to the end. The Krolith Empire grew desperate. Veckrath ordered increasingly brutal tactics. He had Krolith civilian populations drafted into military service. He stripped resources from civilian worlds to fund the war machine. He executed commanders who lost battles. Counselor Thexnar, who had warned about humanity years ago, was one of those executed. His crime was defeatism because he suggested negotiating a full surrender with humanity. Before he died, Thexnar sent a secret message to a human intelligence operative. You will win this war. But remember, the Krolith civilians are not your enemy. They suffer under Veckrath just as you suffered under his attack. When you reach Krol Prime, remember mercy. The message found its way to Admiral Sung Ho. He read it carefully and filed it away. Humanity would remember. Young-Su turned 16. In one more year, he could join the academy. He had spent 5 years preparing. He was strong, smart, and absolutely focused on his goal. His counselor tried one last time to give him a normal life. Young-Su, you're still young. You could go to a university, study something other than war. Have a regular life. I'll have a regular life when the Krolith pay for what they did, he said, as he always did. Not before. What if the war ends before you can fight? Young-Su smiled, but there was no humor in it. It won't. They have 158 worlds left. Even if we take 10 per year, that's 15 more years. I'll get my chance. The counselor had no answer. She simply hoped the boy would find peace someday. The Galactic Commerce Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss the human problem. They're winning, one representative said. The Krolith Empire is collapsing. But the humans won't stop. They refuse all partial surrenders. They demand total capitulation. They're behaving like conquerors. Ambassador Ji-Wan stood to respond. We're not conquerors. We're pursuing justice. The Krolith Empire murdered 2.7 million civilians in an unprovoked attack. They chose war. Now they must face the consequences. Every single perpetrator will be held accountable. But you're destabilizing the entire region. Krolith territory is falling into chaos. Trade routes are disrupted. Millions of aliens are caught in the crossfire. We minimize civilian casualties wherever possible, Ji-Wan said coldly. We provide medical care to prisoners. We don't bombard civilian populations from orbit. We are not the Krolith Empire. But we will finish what they started. The Assembly should intervene, another representative argued. Force both sides to negotiate. Try it, Ji-Wan said. Send your fleets to stop us. See what happens. The threat hung in the air. The Assembly knew humanity's military had grown powerful. They also knew humanity was absolutely committed to this war. Nobody wanted to test whether humans would fight the entire galaxy if necessary. The session ended with no action taken. The war would continue. On the battlefield, General Hyan's ground forces became legendary. They perfected a new type of warfare. Strike from orbit with biological weapons. Land immediately after. Secure objectives before the enemy recovers. Treat prisoners well. Establish order quickly. Krolith soldiers started surrendering rather than fighting. Why die for an empire that was clearly losing? Why fight soldiers who would treat them fairly once they surrendered? Veckrath raged when he heard about surrenders. He declared that any Krolith who surrendered was a traitor to the species. He ordered their families arrested as hostages. This backfired. More Krolith soldiers defected to the human side. Some brought intelligence about defenses. Others helped plan assaults on Krolith worlds. We're not fighting for Veckrath anymore, one defector told General Hyan. We're fighting for our families. If surrendering to you means they'll be safe from him, we'll surrender. The Krolith Empire was eating itself from the inside. Pilot Sora led her new squadron on deep strike missions. They penetrated further into Krolith space than anyone before. They destroyed shipyards, command centers, and communication arrays. The Krolith couldn't coordinate their defenses anymore. After one mission, a young pilot in her squadron asked, Captain, why do you think they attacked us in the first place? What did we do to them? Sora thought about her father, about the last message he sent, about 2.7 million people who had done nothing wrong. We didn't do anything, she said. They attacked us because they thought we were weak, because they believed might makes right, because they never considered that weak people might refuse to stay weak. They made Part 3. The Hunter Becomes Hunted. 2 years into the war, Captain Yoon-ji sat in the cockpit of her stealth ship. Around her, 5 other ships floated in the darkness of space. They were deep in Krolith territory, places where human ships were never supposed to go. "Ghost Squadron, report status," she said quietly. One by one, her pilots confirmed they were ready. Ghost Squadron was humanity's best. They flew ships that bent light around them, making them invisible. They had stolen the technology from a Krolith research station 8 months ago. Now they used it against its makers. "Target confirmed," said her second officer. "Krolith supply depot, coordinates match intelligence reports." Light defenses. Yoon-ji studied the depot through her sensors. It supplied 12 Krolith military outposts. Food, fuel, ammunition. Everything an army needed. Destroying it wouldn't win the war, but it would hurt. Begin the approach. Remember, we hit fast and disappear. The moment they see us, we're gone. The squadron moved like ghosts through space. The Krolith defenders never saw them coming. Missiles struck fuel tanks. Explosions rippled across the depot. By the time the Krolith scrambled their fighters, Ghost Squadron was already jumping to hyperspace. Another target down. Another message sent. Back at Terran Coalition headquarters, Jiwoo stared at her screens. She was an intelligence analyst, and her job was simple but huge. Map the entire Krolith Empire. Every world. Every station. Every ship. Know everything about them. She had worked on this project for 18 months. Her team of 40 analysts worked around the clock. They intercepted communications. They tracked ship movements. They interviewed refugees from species the Krolith had conquered. Now finally the map was complete. "Admiral Sung-ho," she said, presenting her work. "We have it. All 247 worlds. Full details on defenses, populations, strategic value, everything." Sung-ho looked at the massive display. It showed the entire Krolith Empire like a web. Lines connected worlds to supply routes. Colors indicated military strength. Numbers showed garrison sizes. "Excellent work," he said. "Now we know exactly what we're hunting." In 2 years, humanity had destroyed 23 Krolith military installations. Not worlds, not yet, but outposts, depots, stations. The strikes were surgical, precise, and they never stopped. The Krolith Empire began to change their tactics. They added more patrols. They fortified their supply lines. They moved more ships to guard their territory. But every change they made, humanity adapted to. When the Krolith added patrols, humans struck the unpatrolled areas. When they fortified supply lines, humans hit manufacturing centers. It was like fighting a shadow. Counselor Thexanar was one of the few Krolith who understood what was happening. He was a military strategist older than most, and he had studied many wars. "Supreme Overlord," he said to Vekrath, "we need to reconsider our position with humanity." "Reconsider?" Vekrath's voice was angry. "We have lost a few outposts. Nothing more. We still control 247 worlds. They control 47. We are still vastly superior. Numbers don't tell the whole story, my lord. Look at the pattern." Thexanar brought up a display. "Every strike they make is calculated. They're not fighting to win battles. They're fighting to learn. Every engagement teaches them more about us. They adapt faster than any species I've seen. They are weak. They are patient. There's a difference. They're not trying to defeat us tomorrow. They're planning to defeat us eventually, and they will keep trying until they do. That makes them dangerous," Vekrath dismissed him. "You worry too much. The humans are barely surviving. One major assault will break them." Thexanar said nothing more. But he knew the truth. The Krolith Empire had awakened something terrible. The Battle of Crimson Nebula changed everything. A Krolith battle fleet was moving through the nebula, on their way to raid a human mining colony. 50 warships, thousands of soldiers. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they found Admiral Sung-ho waiting with the entire Terran defense fleet. The battle lasted 8 hours. Human ships were outnumbered, but they fought differently now. They used the nebula's gases to hide. They struck from unexpected angles. They coordinated perfectly. When it ended, 37 Krolith ships were destroyed. The rest fled. Humanity lost 11 ships, but they held the field. It was humanity's first major victory. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Other species who had been watching quietly started to whisper. Maybe humanity wasn't as weak as they thought. Maybe the Krolith had made a mistake. The Galactic Commerce Assembly tried to broker peace. A delegation arrived at Earth, led by the same representative who had told Ambassador G1 to surrender. The Krolith Empire is willing to discuss terms, he said. They will offer reparations, money, technology. In exchange, you end this war. President Min Seo of the Terran Coalition met with them. She was a woman in her 50s who had lost her son on Terra Nova. Tell the Krolith Empire we have terms too, she said calmly. Complete and unconditional surrender. War crimes trials for every leader involved in ordering the attacks, full disarmament of their military, and reparations calculated by us, not them. They will never accept those terms, the representative said. Then we continue the war. But you're winning some battles now. Isn't that enough? More war means more death. Min Seo looked at him with cold eyes. They killed 2.7 million of our people without warning, without mercy. They thought we would submit. They were wrong. We will accept nothing less than total justice. Tell them that. The delegation left. The war continued. Dr. Hana made a breakthrough in her laboratory. After 2 years of research, she had found it. A biological agent that targeted only Krolith warriors. It wouldn't kill them, but it would make them sick. Weak. Unable to fight. It's perfect, Admiral Sung-ho said, reviewing her work. We can use this on their military worlds. It won't affect civilians, Hana said. Only the warrior caste. They'll recover eventually, but it will take months. That's more mercy than they showed us. Humanity began producing the agent in secret. It was a weapon, but a controlled one. Not genocide. Not mass murder. Just something to even the odds. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. Other species started helping humanity. They came quietly at first. A refugee from a world the Krolith had conquered decades ago. Then a small alien merchant who had lost family to Krolith raids. Then more, they brought information. Technical data. Old star charts. Anything that could help. One alien named Kivara stood before Ambassador G1. She was from a species that had been enslaved by the Krolith for 50 years before escaping. Why do you fight? She asked G1. The galaxy says you should surrender. The Krolith are too strong. Because they attacked us without reason, G1 said. Because they murdered civilians. Because if we don't stop them, they'll do it again to someone else. My people thought the same thing, Kivara said quietly. We fought the Krolith. We lost. They enslaved us. Made us work in their mines. Took our children as hostages. For 50 years we suffered. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help us. If you can truly defeat the Krolith, we will help you. My people will help you. Others will too. And so the Alliance of the Hunted was born. It started small. A few species who had suffered under Krolith rule. They provided intelligence, supplies, safe harbors for human ships. They didn't fight directly, not yet. But they helped, the Krolith Empire noticed. They began to realize this war was different. Humanity wasn't just fighting alone. They were building coalitions. Making friends. Turning the galaxy against them. We need to end this quickly, Veckrath told his commanders. Launch a major offensive. Strike at Earth itself. Break their will. Thexnar spoke up again. My lord, I must advise against this. Our intelligence suggests the humans are prepared for such an attack. They want us to overextend ourselves. Are you a coward, Thexnar? I am a realist. The humans have destroyed 23 of our installations in 2 years. They've won major fleet battles. They have allies now. They are learning, adapting, growing stronger. Meanwhile, what have we accomplished? We killed millions of them 2 years ago, and since then we've been bleeding. Veckrath struck him. You will not speak that way. Thexnar touched his face where he'd been hit. He said nothing more. But in his eyes was a look of resignation. The Krolith Empire was being led by pride, not wisdom. And pride, he knew, always came before a fall. Ghost Squadron continued their missions deep in enemy territory. Captain Yunji and her pilots became legends. They destroyed supply lines, gathered intelligence, and spread fear among the Krolith. The Krolith started calling them the shadows that kill. They posted guards everywhere. They scanned space constantly, but the humans were always one step ahead. They're afraid of us now, one of Yunji's pilots said after a successful mission. Good, Yunji replied. Fear is the beginning. Understanding comes next, then surrender. Back on Earth, Young-Soo turned 13. He had 2 more years before he could apply to the military academy. He spent his days training harder, learning more, preparing. Other survivors did the same. A whole generation of human children were growing up with one purpose: To ensure this never happened again, the galaxy watched humanity and wondered, how far would they go? When would they stop? The answer was simple, though the galaxy didn't understand it yet. Humanity would go to the last Krolith planet. Part 2. The long memory. 6 weeks after the attacks, Dr. Hana woke up in a hospital bed. Her head hurt. Her body hurt. Everything hurt. But she was alive. A nurse came in when she opened her eyes. "Welcome back, doctor. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Where am I?" Hana asked. Her throat was dry. "Earth. Military hospital. You were found in an escape pod near New Sol. You were the only survivor from the Morning Star still alive." The memories came back like a punch. The attack. The explosions. Captain Daewon staying behind. Her sister on New Sol. Her sister's children. All gone. How many? She whispered. The nurse understood. From the 3 colonies? 2.7 million confirmed dead. No survivors found on the planets. The Krolith burned everything. Hana closed her eyes. She wanted to cry, but no tears came. She felt empty inside, like something important had been carved out. Later that day, a military officer visited her. Admiral Sung-ho was a man in his 60s with gray hair and hard eyes. He had fought in the border conflicts 10 years ago. He knew war. "Dr. Hana," he said, sitting beside her bed, "I'm sorry for your loss." "I'm sorry for what happened. What is the coalition doing?" she asked. "We're going to war," Sung-ho said simply. "Total war. The Krolith Empire thinks they can kill millions of us and face no consequences. They're wrong. They have over 200 worlds, advanced weapons, huge fleets. I know, we're weaker than them in almost every way, but we have something they don't understand." Sung-ho pulled out a tablet and showed her a document. "This is Operation Eternal Vigil. We're not trying to win battles. We're going to end them. Every single world they control, every single leader who approved the attack. We'll hunt them all." Hana looked at the document. It was a list. The Krolith Empire had 247 controlled worlds. The list named every single one. It included coordinates, populations, military assets, and strategic importance. "This will take years," she said. "Yes, maybe decades. But humans are patient when they need to be. We'll take however long it requires. What do you want from me? You're a xenobiologist. You know alien species better than anyone. We need to understand the Krolith, their biology, their weaknesses. Can you help us?" Hana thought about her sister, about her niece and nephew. They were 8 and 6 years old. They loved drawing pictures. They would never grow up now. "Yes," she said. "I'll help you." Across human space, the reaction was the same everywhere. Anger, grief, and a cold determination that surprised even humans themselves. Young Su was 11 years old. He had lived on New Sol with his parents and baby brother. He was at school when the attack happened. The school had a bunker, built during the early colonial days. 30 children and 2 teachers survived there for 3 days before rescue ships arrived. When young Su came out of the bunker, his city was gone, just craters and ash. His home was gone. His family was gone. Everything was gone. They took the survivors to Earth. Young Su didn't talk for 2 weeks. He just sat quietly, staring at nothing. The psychologist said he was in shock. They said he needed time, but Young Su wasn't empty inside. He was full of something dark and hot. He was full of purpose. One day, a military recruiter visited the survivors. "I know you're all young," the recruiter said, "but when you're old enough, we'll need you. We'll need everyone. This war won't end quickly." Young Su raised his hand. "How old do I need to be?" 17 for the academy. 18 for active duty. That's 6 years, Young Su said. "Will the war still be going?" The recruiter nodded sadly. "Yes, this will be a long war." "Good," Young Su said. "That means I won't miss it." The Terran Coalition created something new. They called it the Memorial Archives. It was a massive database, but also a physical building on Earth. Inside, they recorded every single victim of the Krolith attack. Every name, every face. Every story. Workers spent months gathering information. They interviewed survivors. They recovered data from destroyed cities. They built profiles of the dead. The little girl who wanted to be a doctor. The old man who told funny stories. The young couple who had just gotten married. All 2.7 million of them. The archives opened 6 months after the attacks. People came from across human space to see it. To remember. In the main hall, a voice read names continuously. It would take years to read all of them. The reading never stopped. Names echoed through the building day and night. Ambassador Ji-Wan attended the opening. She stood in the hall listening to the names. When she heard Dr. Hana's sister, her daughter, and her son, she closed her eyes. "We will remember," she said quietly. It became the phrase everyone said. Not a vow of revenge, just a simple promise. We will remember. Meanwhile, the military worked. Engineer Minho led a team of weapons developers. They studied every piece of Krolith technology they could find, debris from their ships, recovered weapons, anything that could teach them how the enemy fought. "They're more advanced than us," Minho told his team. "But technology has limits. We can close the gap. We just need to be smarter." They started projects that would take years. New weapons, new ships, new tactics. Humanity couldn't match the Krolith in raw power, so they would have to be clever. Admiral Sung Ho gathered his commanders. "The Krolith think we'll either surrender or fight them head-on and lose. We'll do neither. We're going to hurt them. Small strikes. Hit their supply lines. Destroy their outposts. Make them afraid." "They have hundreds of worlds, sir," one commander said. "Where do we even start?" Sung Ho pulled up the list. 247 worlds. "We start at the edges. The small outposts. The places they don't defend well. We learn, we adapt, and slowly we move toward their heart." The first strike came 3 months after the attacks. A human stealth ship appeared at a remote Krolith mining station. The station had minimal defenses. It processed rare metals for their war machine. The human ship fired missiles and disappeared. The station exploded. 40 Krolith military personnel died. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The Krolith Empire barely noticed. Their leaders laughed when they heard. "The humans destroyed one mining station," they said. "Pathetic. They're already broken." But Admiral Sung Ho looked at his list. He crossed off the mining station. 246 targets remained. "We will remember," he said quietly. Dr. Hana worked in her laboratory. She studied Krolith biology from recovered bodies. She found something interesting. The Krolith had a warrior caste and a civilian caste. They were biologically different. The warriors were bigger, stronger, and more aggressive. But they had a weakness in their immune system. Something specific, something humanity could maybe use. "Keep researching," Admiral Sung Ho told her. "We need every advantage." 6 months after the attacks, the Krolith Empire received a message. It came on all their frequencies. It was simple. "This is the Terran Coalition. You killed 2.7 million of our people. We will not forget. We will not forgive. We will hunt you to the last planet. You have been warned." The Krolith Supreme Overlord Vekrath watched the message. He was a huge creature covered in armored scales. He had led the Krolith for 30 years, conquering world after world. "Humans," he said dismissively. "They threaten us. Let them come. We will crush them like insects," his advisors agreed. The Krolith Empire was strong. Humanity was weak. This war would be over quickly. But deep in Krolith space, at that destroyed mining station, something changed. The Krolith military started adding more guards to their outposts. Not many, just a few. Just in case. They didn't say it out loud, but for the first time, the Krolith Empire felt something new. They felt watched. On Earth, young Su attended a special school for war survivors. He studied hard. He exercised. He learned everything he could about the Krolith. When other kids played games, he read military history. When they watched movies, he studied battle tactics. His counselor worried about him. "Young Su, you need to have a childhood. You need to play, to laugh." "My brother was 3 years old," Young Su said quietly. "He'll never get to play or laugh. I'll have a childhood after the Krolith pay for what they did." The counselor had no answer for that. Across human space, the same determination grew. Every human knew someone who died. Every family was touched by the tragedy. And every single human, from children to the elderly, shared the same thought. This would not stand. The Krolith Empire had started a war. They thought it would be short. They thought humanity would break. They were wrong about everything. Part 1, The First Strike. The stars looked peaceful that morning. Captain Day-One stood on the bridge of the Morning Star, watching the blue glow of hyperspace fade away. His ship carried 3,000 people. Most were families moving to New Seoul. a colony world humanity had built 20 years ago. Children ran through the corridors. Parents talked about their new homes. Everyone felt safe. Day One had been a captain for 15 years. He knew space could be dangerous, but humanity had made friends across the galaxy. They traded with dozens of alien species. Wars were rare now. The Galactic Commerce Assembly kept peace between worlds. Humans were new to the galaxy, but they learned fast. They built colonies, opened trade routes, and respected other species. "Captain, we're approaching New Sol," said the navigator. "Should arrive in 30 minutes. Day One nodded. He thought about his daughter Sora, who had just joined the Terran Defense Fleet. She wanted to be a pilot. He was proud of her. After this trip, he would visit her at the academy. Maybe they could have dinner together. Dr. Hana walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's medical officer and also studied alien biology. "Beautiful view," she said, looking at the planet ahead. New Sol looked like Earth, with blue oceans and green continents. "My sister lives down there with her family. I can't wait to see them." The peaceful moment ended in fire. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Red lights flashed everywhere. "Captain!" Unknown ships dropping out of hyperspace. The navigator shouted. "Hundreds of them!" Day One's blood went cold. On the screen he saw warships. Huge warships, black and covered in weapons. They surrounded New Sol like wolves around a lamb. More ships appeared near the Morning Star. "Identify those vessels," Day One ordered. "They're Krolith Empire ships, sir," the communications officer said. Her hands shook. "Military grade. Heavy destroyers and battlecruisers. The Krolith Empire." Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They had conquered over 200 star systems. They were strong, aggressive, and didn't negotiate. But they had never attacked humanity before. There was no reason for this. "Open a channel," Day One said. "Maybe this is a mistake." "Sir, they're not responding to our hails. They're not even acknowledging us." On the view screen, the Krolith ships began firing, not at the Morning Star. At New Sol, bright lances of energy shot down from orbit. They hit cities, spaceports, and farms. Day One watched in horror as explosions bloomed across the planet's surface. Each explosion meant thousands of deaths. Millions of people lived on New Sol. They had no military defenses. They were civilians just trying to live their lives. "No," Dr. Hana whispered. No, my sister. Her children. They're down there. Get us out of here," Day One ordered. "Maximum speed." But it was too late. 3 Krolith destroyers turned toward the Morning Star, their weapons charged with an ugly red glow. "Captain, they're targeting us," the navigator screamed. Day One made a decision in seconds. "Evacuate everyone to the escape pods now. Send out a distress signal on all human frequencies." People ran through the corridors. Parents grabbed their children. The elderly were helped by the young. The crew worked to get everyone out. But there wasn't enough time. There would never be enough time. Day One stayed on the bridge. He recorded a message while his crew evacuated. His hands were steady, but his heart was breaking. "This is Captain Day One of the civilian transport Morning Star. We are under attack by the Krolith Empire without warning or provocation. They are destroying New Sol. 3,000 civilians are on my ship. We never threatened them. We never hurt them. If anyone hears this, remember what happened here. Remember that humanity asked for peace and they gave us war." The first weapon hit shook the entire ship. Metal screamed. People screamed. Day One gripped his chair. "Captain, you need to evacuate." Dr. Hana shouted from the doorway. "Not yet. Not until everyone else is off." The second hit breached the hull. Atmosphere rushed out into space. Day One could hear the ship dying around him. He pressed the button to launch all remaining escape pods. Maybe some would survive. Maybe they would tell the story. The third hit ended everything. Across 3 different star systems, the same scene played out. The Krolith fleet struck at 3 human colonies at once: New Sol, Terra Nova, and Horizon's Edge. They came without warning. They asked for no surrender. They simply destroyed. Orbital bombardment turned cities into craters. Spaceports exploded. Communication arrays went silent. In 6 hours, the Krolith Empire killed 2.7 million human beings. At Nexus Prime, the neutral trading station where hundreds of species met, Ambassador Jiwan received the news. She was a diplomat who had spent 10 years building relationships with alien governments. She believed in peace, in talking, and finding solutions. The message came through in fragments, broken transmissions, dying screams. Captain Day One's final words: Ji-won stood in the embassy staring at the screen. Her aide was crying. Around her, other diplomats gathered, looking uncomfortable. A representative from the Galactic Commerce Assembly arrived. He was a tall, thin alien with 4 arms and no face that humans could read. "Ambassador Ji-won," he said in a flat voice. "The Assembly has reviewed the situation. The Krolith Empire has issued a statement. They consider human expansion a threat to galactic stability. They demand humanity retreat to your home system." "They murdered 3 million people," Ji-won said quietly. "The Assembly recommends compliance. The Krolith Empire is powerful. Humanity is new. More violence will only mean more death." Ji-won looked at him. She had been a diplomat for so long. She had always believed in compromise. But something changed in her at that moment. Something cold and hard formed where her hope used to be. "Send a message to the Terran Coalition," she said to her aide. "Tell them what happened." "Tell them everything. What will they do?" the Assembly representative asked. Ji-won thought about Captain Daewon, about Dr. Hana's sister and her children, about 3,000 people on the Morning Star who just wanted to start new lives, about 2.7 million civilians who woke up that morning not knowing it was their last day. "I don't know," she said, "but I know humans. We remember. We always remember." The representative left. Ji-won stood alone in the embassy looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krolith Empire celebrated their victory. They thought they had taught humanity a lesson. They thought humans would run away scared. They had no idea what they had started. Back on Earth, in the Terran Coalition headquarters, military commanders received the reports. They watched the footage from escape pods. They listened to Captain Daewon's final message. They counted the dead, and they began to plan. The Krolith Empire had made one terrible mistake. They thought humanity was weak because they were peaceful. They didn't understand that humanity chose peace because they remembered what war was like. They didn't know that humans had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching the stars. They didn't know that humanity's greatest fear was becoming monsters again. But the Krolith Empire had just given humanity a reason to remember what they could be. The message went out to every human world. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we will never stop. The war had begun. Part 5. The last strongholds. 8 years, 3 months, and 17 days after the first attack, Fleet Marshal Sung Ho looked at his tactical display. Only 31 Krolith worlds remained. The empire that once controlled 247 systems now held barely a fragment of its former territory. "Sir, the blockade is complete," his tactical officer reported. "We have ships surrounding every remaining Krolith system. Nothing gets in or out without our permission." Sung Ho had grown even older during the war. His hair was completely white now. Lines cut deep across his face. But his eyes were still sharp, still determined. "Good. Begin the next phase. Send word to all commanders. We're going to end this." The final assault was beginning. On Earth, Young-Soo prepared to graduate from the military academy. He was 18 now, no longer the quiet, traumatized child from New Seoul. He stood tall in his uniform, ready to serve, ready to fight. The academy commandant called him into his office. "Officer Young-Soo, your test scores are excellent. Top of your class in tactics, weapons, and leadership. You have your choice of assignments. Where do you want to serve?" "Ground Assault Forces, sir. General Hyun's division, if possible." "You want to be in the hardest fighting?" "Yes, sir. My family died on New Seoul. I've waited 8 years for this. I want to be there when we take Kroll Prime." The commandant understood. Many officers in this graduating class had similar stories. A generation raised by war, shaped by loss, determined to see justice done. Request approved. Report to General Hyun's flagship in 3 days. Good luck, officer. Young-Soo saluted and left. He had kept his promise to himself. He hadn't missed the war. Now he would help finish it. On the Krolith homeworld of Kroll Prime, Supreme Overlord Vekroth watched his empire crumble. Reports came in daily. Another world surrendered. Another fleet defeated. Another million of his people gave up. "Cowards," he muttered. "All of them. Have they no pride?" His advisor, one of the few still loyal, spoke carefully. "My lord, the humans have surrounded us. They control all space around our remaining worlds. Our people are starving. Supply ships cannot break through. Perhaps we should consider their terms." "Never." Vekroth's voice was cold. "I will not surrender to inferior creatures. I will fight to the last Krolith. If I cannot have victory, then I will have extinction. But the civilians, my lord. Millions of innocent millions. The civilians will fight or they will die. There is no third option. The advisor said nothing more. But that night he sent a secret transmission to the human fleet. In it, he provided detailed maps of Kroll Prime's defenses, locations of military installations, and Vecrath's command center coordinates. I am a traitor to my overlord, the message read. But I am loyal to my people. Please, when you come, spare the civilians. They have suffered enough under Vecrath's rule. The message reached Fleet Marshal Sung Ho. He shared it with his command staff. Opinions? He asked. General Hyun spoke first. It could be a trap. The information might be false, designed to lure us into an ambush. Or it could be genuine, Captain Sora said. We've seen this before. Krolith officers defecting because they're tired of Vecrath's insanity. The information matches our intelligence from other sources. Dr. Hana, now serving as a senior advisor, added her perspective. I've studied Krolith psychology for 8 years. Their culture values strength and honor. But Vecrath has thrown both away. He's willing to sacrifice his entire species for pride. Many Krolith can't accept that. We'll verify the information independently, Sung Ho decided. But we proceed with the assumption that Krolith civilians are not our enemy. We target military installations and leadership. Civilians are to be protected whenever possible. President Min Seo gave a speech to all of humanity. It was broadcast across every human world and to the fleet. 8 years ago, the Krolith Empire attacked us without warning or mercy. They killed 2.7 million of our people. We vowed then that we would not forget, that we would pursue justice to the end. That day is finally here. In the coming weeks, we will assault the remaining Krolith strongholds. We will capture their leaders. We will hold them accountable for their crimes. But we will not become what they are. We will show mercy to civilians. We will offer surrender to soldiers who lay down arms. We fight for justice, not genocide. Remember the dead. Honor their memory by being better than those who killed them. The speech resonated across human space. It reminded everyone why they fought. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. For justice. The assault on the outer Krolith worlds began. One by one they fell. General Hyon's ground forces landed on each world after orbital deployments of the biological agent weakened military resistance. Krolith soldiers, seeing their situation was hopeless, surrendered in large numbers. Officer Young-Soo experienced combat for the first time. His unit secured a military complex on a Krolith fortress world. The fighting was brief but intense. He performed well, staying calm under fire, leading his squad effectively. After the battle, as they processed prisoners, a young Krolith soldier looked at him. How old are you, human? 18. I am 19. I do not want this war. I never wanted it. Young-Soo thought about his family, his parents, his baby brother, all killed by people like this. But he also thought about what his parents taught him before they died. Be kind, be fair, be better than your worst impulses. The war is almost over, Young-Soo said. You'll be processed, documented, and held until the trials. If you weren't involved in the attacks on our colonies, you'll probably be released to help rebuild your worlds. You'll live. The Krolith soldier looked surprised. You do not hate us? I hate what was done to my family. But you didn't kill them. Your overlord did. He's the one we're here for. The soldier started crying. Young-Soo walked away. He had learned something important. Justice meant punishing the guilty, not everyone who happened to share their species. Captain Sora led fighter wings in the final space battles. The Krolith fleet made its last stand at Kroll Prime's orbital defense stations. It was a desperate defense, brave but futile. The Krolith ships were outnumbered 3-1 and their pilots were exhausted from 8 years of losing battles. Sora's squadron broke through the defense line and destroyed 2 orbital platforms. Other human squadrons followed. Within 6 hours, Kroll Prime's orbital defenses were gone. Prepare for ground assault, Fleet Marshal Sung Ho ordered. All units execute final phase. Remember, civilians are not targets. Vecrath and his command structure are the objectives. The largest ground invasion in the war began. Hundreds of landing craft descended on Kroll Prime. General Hyun commanded from the lead ship. Officer Young-Soo was in the second wave. Captain Sora provided air cover. The Krolith military made their last stand around the Imperial Citadel where Vecrath had his command center. They fought desperately, knowing defeat meant the end of everything they had known, but they were tired. They were outnumbered, and many of them didn't really believe in the fight anymore. Within 3 days, human forces surrounded the Imperial Citadel. They didn't rush in. They waited. They let Veckrath know there was no escape. Inside the Citadel, Veckrath raged at his remaining officers. "Why do you stand there? Why do you not fight?" "Because it's over, my lord," one officer said quietly. "We have lost. Your pride has destroyed us, and traitor." Veckrath killed the officer with his own hands. The other officers stepped back, but they didn't leave. They just watched him with sad, resigned eyes. Outside, General Hyon used loudspeakers to address the Citadel. "Supreme Overlord Veckrath, you are surrounded. Your empire is gone. Your fleet is destroyed. Your soldiers have surrendered. You have no options left. If you come out now, you will face trial for your crimes. If you do not, we will come in. You have 12 hours to decide." Veckrath didn't respond. He sat on his throne, staring at nothing. The Krolith civilians on Kroll Prime watched from their homes. Human soldiers walked through the streets, but they weren't attacking civilian areas. They provided food to the hungry, medical care to the sick, protection from looters. One elderly Krolith woman approached a human soldier. "Why do you help us? We are your enemy." The soldier, who had lost his family on Terra Nova, said, "You didn't attack us. Your leaders did. You're just people trying to survive. That's not a crime." News of humanity's treatment of Krolith civilians spread quickly. The galaxy watched and understood something important. Humanity wasn't interested in revenge against all Krolith. They wanted justice against those responsible. Ambassador G1 gave a statement to the Galactic Commerce Assembly. "In 12 hours, we will enter the Imperial Citadel on Kroll Prime. Supreme Overlord Veckrath will be captured and put on trial for crimes against humanity and crimes against his own people. This war will end. The Krolith people will be free to determine their own future without a dictator's cruelty. Justice will be served." Back at the Memorial Archives on Earth, the voice still read names. It had been reading for 8 years. Soon it would finish the list. Soon every victim would have been remembered. At the Citadel, the 12 hours passed. Veckrath did not surrender. He sat on his throne, armed and defiant to the end. "All right," General Hyon said to his forces. "We go in. Non-lethal force preferred. Capture, don't kill, but defend yourselves if necessary." Officer Youngsu was part of the entry team.